Good evening, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Roger Graver alongside co-host Matthew Miata, and welcome to a special edition of the Investor Files.
Tonight, we will explore the economic effects of the Great Recession a few years back, as well as possible future outcomes of President Obama's economic plans as he runs for re-election.
We'll start with a flashback to the beginning of the economic crisis. The following is a video of a speech given by President Obama back in 2009 evaluating the economic situation at the time. Take a look.
That's why we need to act boldly and act now to reverse these cycles. That's why we need to put money into the pockets of the American people, create new jobs, and invest in our future. That's why we need to restart the flow of credit and restore the rules of the road that will ensure a crisis like this never happens again. And this plan must begin today. A plan I am confident will save or create at least 3 million jobs over the next few years. It is not just another public works program. It's a plan that recognizes both the paradox and the promise of this moment. The fact that there are millions of Americans trying to find work even as, all around the country, there's so much work to be done. And that's why we'll invest in priorities like energy and education, healthcare and new infrastructure that are necessary to keep us strong and competitive in the 21st century. That's why the overwhelming majority of the jobs created will be in the private sector, while our plan will save the public sector jobs of teachers, police officers, firefighters, and others who provide vitals. To finally spark the creation of a clean energy economy, we will double the production of alternative energy in the next 3 years. In the process, we will put Americans to work in new jobs that pay well and can't be outsourced. Jobs building solar panels and wind turbines, constructing fuel-efficient cars and buildings, and developing the new energy technologies that will lead to even more jobs, more savings, and a cleaner, safer planet in the bargain. To improve the quality of our healthcare while lowering its costs, we will make the immediate investments necessary to ensure that within 5 years, all of America's medical records are computerized. This will cut waste, eliminate red tape, and reduce the need to repeat expensive medical tests. But it won't save billions of dollars and thousands of jobs. It will save lives by reducing the deadly but preventable medical errors that pervade our healthcare system.
It's been almost 3 years since President Obama delivered that speech, and whether people agree with his motives or not, it can't be denied that the crisis of 2008 is slowly beginning to subside. Still, there are those who are not at all pleased with the actions the president has taken to solve the recession. The following clips are from an interview taken about a year ago, showing the gaps in Obama's plans and what he has failed to solve.
What type of work did you and your wife do before the Great Recession?
When the recession hit, we were a one-income family. My wife knew the job market would be unpredictable and there would be weeks, possibly months, between temporary jobs. She was laid off in 2009, but we didn't worry at first because we felt sure that another job was coming in a month or two.
What about your financial situation before the recession?
We did have enough savings to make it for about 6 months in the event of a job loss. We received a weekly unemployment check for about $285, but we had approximately $1,500 worth of credit card debt. When the recession hit, we also found that transferring credit card balances with 0% interest for 1 year was not an option. And then a significant interest rate increase ensued. I was not making any purchases on these credit cards, just trying to pay them off surely and steadily.
How did your wife's unemployment affect you?
My wife was unemployed from March 2009 to April 2010. Thing is, many of the possible jobs that were lined up were put on hold due to lack of government funding. After several months went by with no job prospects, we became less optimistic. She was unable to find a job in her line of work because she was considered overqualified for many low-paying jobs that she gladly would have taken.
Now that we are about 22 months into this recession, what things are you going to do different?
My wife is employed today, but that could change tomorrow. It's not an ideal situation, but we make the best of it. We're saving as much as we can, slowly paying off our credit card debt, but we haven't touched our credit card in over a year, and once we pay them off, we hope to never use our credit cards as a crutch again.
I would like to thank Marvin Erickson so much for taking his time out to do this interview with us and sharing his story. I know the Great Recession has severely affected a lot of people and is ruining the lives of many. However, having an emergency fund, cutting coupons and costs, and paying off debt can help you make it through the toughest of times.
We went out and contacted that man once again after Obama's first term to get a first-hand look on the effects of Obama's economic plan on this family.
Welcome back to our show, Marvin. So, how has your opinion of the president changed after his recent term? What about your financial conditions?
Well, my opinion of the president has actually worsened since before. Even with the stimulus package, I've been forced to work instead of taking care of my family at home. He said he's going to create jobs, but I've been hired and laid off twice in the last 4 years. Plus, my 23-year-old son can't find a job and is still living at home with us. The only thing Obama has done is increase government debt.
I'm sorry to hear about that. What do you think about the universal health care bill Obama supports?
Look, I think universal health care is a good idea, but what Obama has proposed is a total swing and a miss. I think that it will only raise premiums for middle-class workers like myself, and taking people's money and distributing it thinly among the poor sounds like forced charity and socialism to me.
Do you have any other ideas besides increasing premiums or raising taxes to provide health care to the people?
Actually, I do. First, creating a nationwide marketplace for healthcare will create a competition between insurance companies and result in lower premiums. Next, we cut the link between health insurance and the workplace. That way, if people get laid off, they still have healthcare. Finally, we expand HSAs. Health savings accounts allow people to gain non-taxable interest on their healthcare fund. The remainder of the accounts rolls over into the next year, and best of all, the government can't touch the money.
Thanks again, Marvin. I hope your economic conditions improve soon. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Jared. I think that you can tell from this case is that President Obama has a lot to deal with if he wants to gain public support for his measures. However, as you might expect, not all American citizens hold such a firm grudge against the current president. We now go to Justin Park to explore a few of the positive effects of Obama's presidency in the community.
Thanks, Roger. I'm here with Remus Ozai at Greenwood Elementary School. Greenwood is one of the many schools that is affected by the Race to the Top program. So, Mr. Ozai, what's your opinion on Obama's economic plans?
Well, I think his plans so far have been great. He's saved millions of businesses as well as jobs. Also, you can see the effects of his plans in our everyday lives. I mean, people are using public transit a lot more, and his efforts to improve education, like his Race to the Top program, have made my son's school district a lot more welcoming.
So, Obama's initiative have affected your family personally. What other effects did Obama's plan have on your personal life?
Well, for me, I've worked at General Motors for the past 15 years, and about 3 years ago, the company started laying off a bunch of people. But then, when the company received government support, I was able to keep my job.
Do you think he could have done more?
I think he definitely could have done more, but I don't think it's necessarily his fault. Republicans in Congress have been pretty much rejecting all his plans since the very beginning, and I personally think that even more government spending could have improved the situation.
Well, later on, we're going to have an economic expert come in to analyze Obama's plans as well as the general effects of the Great Recession. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Justin. I think we now have a relatively good idea of where both sides are coming from.
Yes, foreign policy matters. Social issues matter. But more than anything else, this election presents a choice between two fundamentally different visions of how to create a strong, sustained growth, how to pay down our long-term debt, and most of all, how to generate good, middle-class jobs so people can have confidence that if they work hard, they can get ahead. But here in the United States, Americans showed their grit and showed their determination. We acted fast. Our economy started growing again 6 months after I took office, and it has continued to grow for the last 3 years. So recovering from the crisis of 2008 has always been the first and most urgent order of business. But it's not enough. Our economy won't be truly healthy until we reverse that much longer and profound erosion of middle-class jobs and middle-class incomes. And finally, I think it's time we took on our fiscal problems in an honest, balanced, responsible way. Everybody agrees that our deficits and debt are an issue that we've got to tackle. My plan to reform the tax code recognizes that government can't bring back every job that's been outsourced or every factory that's closed its doors. But we sure can stop giving tax breaks to businesses that ship jobs overseas and start rewarding companies that create jobs right here in the United States of America, in Ohio,
We're now joined by economic analyst Cooper Anderson, who's here to provide analysis of the speeches given by President Obama and delve deeper into the true causes of the Great Recession. Dr. Anderson, can you explain to us what really happened 5 years ago and the roots of the economic crisis?
So the event, now famously known as the Great Recession, began largely because of poor oversight of powerful U.S. financial institutions at the time. What we can see is that the growth of the housing market in America was the primary macroeconomic force that contributed to the Great Recession. As median household prices in America rose, U.S. financial institutions lowered interest rates and poured resources into lending subprime mortgages, with the assurance that housing prices would keep rising. According to economic analysis done by Washington University in St. Louis, this inflationary cycle of lenders feeding the demands of borrowers was what created the housing bubble in 2006 to 2007. At the same time, the effects of globalization also played a role in the economic crisis. As the labor market in developing countries such as China and India grew, so did the number of outsourced manufacturing and labor jobs. The accumulation of savings in the U.S. dollar in the Chinese economy led to further growth in the U.S. economy. In fact, according to Northwestern's analysis of the pre-Great Recession economy, foreign reserve holdings in the U.S. From 2002 to 2007 almost doubled. This further increased investment by banks into the housing market. However, as the economies of developing countries grew, the prices of commodities such as food and energy spiked. This confluence of factors was what led to millions of new homeowners defaulting on their debt, as many could not pay back their mortgage.
So how do you think President Obama's efforts to resurrect the economy have fared so far?
The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 has undoubtedly played a substantial role in the resurrection of the economy so far. The stimulus package provided by President Obama definitely had a lot to do with the slowing down of the deflationary cycle that came with the Great Recession. Direct spending in industries such as infrastructure, education, health, and renewable energy contributed in part to the revitalization of the U.S. economy in 2009 to 2010. However, what really contributed to the safety net for millions of Americans and the slowing of the downturn in the economy was the unemployment benefits and social welfare provisions in the Reinvestment Act. Although Obama's actions were certainly not the only forces that contributed to the recovery of the American and global economy, his efforts did help the overall economic situation at the time.
Where do you see the economy heading in the future, say, the next 5 years?
Considering the safety nets placed after 2008 and the current U.S. growth, the next 5 years for the U.S. economy look promising. In terms of the labor force, I see the unemployment rate falling, and with Great Recession recovery reforms in place, better social welfare programs should help individuals below the poverty line. I also see the stock market growing and with long-term stability for the future.
Thank you for your insight, Dr. Anderson. It's been great having you. And with that, we'll conclude tonight's exclusive edition on the Great Recession. As you can see, even if the economy looks like it's making a strong comeback, there are still too many unanswered questions and dilemmas to solve before we can declare ourselves safe. And while the outcome looks promising for President Obama, for the time being, we'll just have to see how the next few months unfold. Good luck to all our viewers. We'll see you next time on the Investor Files. Have a great night. And with that, we'll conclude tonight's exclusive edition on the Great Recession. As you can see, even if the economy looks like it's making a strong comeback, there are still too many unanswered questions and dilemmas to solve before we can declare ourselves safe. And while the outcome looks promising for President Obama, for the time being, we'll just have to see how the next few months unfold. Good luck to all our viewers. We'll see you next time on the Investor Files. Have a great night.